Missing someone with all your missing someone
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So this week I have a brand new client who has some old permanent color in her hair. She wanted to stop going in to do her routinely root retouches. She was just kind of sick of the maintenance, looking for something that would last her longer but also complement her natural hair color as it grew in. As you can see, she has a good amount of gray, and the color on her mids and ends is pretty much just like a solid tone overall. And so she wants something that's going to have dimension but also just grow out really soft and make her not feel like she hates when her roots grow in. So in this video, I wanted to share with you guys how I'm going to utilize my signature placement for this client. But before I begin, I do want to note that she has a ton of hair. Like, I don't know if you guys can tell through these clips, but she has a lot of hair. And so even when I do this placement on her, it's going to look different from some of my other clients just because of her hair density, her texture, and the amount of hair that she has. So if you are new here and haven't watched many of my past videos, this signature technique that I've shared in a lot of previous videos is I'll take a detailed hairline foil around the nape of the neck, and those typically I'll weave, but everything that's kind of inside, like internal, where I'm going in the back here all the way to the sides and the top, I try to do slices to utilize that type of placement. And normally when a client comes in with pretty much an all over dark color like this, I try to do slices as much as possible for a few different reasons. So one of the main reasons is because I want to get the most amount of impact with each foil. So if I were to like weave this whole thing and add in a lot of that dimension and not do the slices, I might lose some of that color within each foil. I feel like when doing the slices, I get those pieces a little bit brighter and a little bit more blonde and just cover more ground with a slice compared to any type of weave. The other reason is because when she comes in for her touch-up next time, it's just a lot easier for me to see where my old placement was. So when I do a touch up, normally on my clients, I just preference wise like the look where the ends are lighter than the roots. I like how the roots kind of gradually, it starts off dark, and so I'll typically do a shadow root and then it gradually gets a little bit lighter towards the ends. That's just kind of the way that I like to see my colors done. And so because of that, I want to make sure that when I do my touch-ups, usually my clients will wait about like 3 or 4 months in between their root touch-ups. And so it gives them, I would say, like 1.5 inches of regrowth, give or take. And when they come in, I usually will pick up any piece or like most of the pieces that I left out their last appointment. So it's kind of like each appointment I am trying to pick up more dimension, and then that gradually kind of gets the ends a little bit lighter instead of re-picking up the highlight that I touched up the last appointment. And so it kind of just gets the ends a little bit lighter but keeps the dimension. And then also it just depends on whatever they are wanting to achieve. Of course, if a client comes in and wants something a little bit more dimensional, then I'll switch it up. I'll weave it versus a slice or space out these sections. But generally I like to do this type of sectioning because it just makes it a lot easier for me to have like a basic blueprint for all my clients and then kind of alternate the spacing and pattern of weave or slice based on that and based on their goals for that day. Because sometimes they change them depending on the season, or maybe they want to be blonder, or maybe they want to be more dimensional. It just depends, and people oftentimes change their minds throughout the years. And so having a nice blueprint that is very simple like this makes it a lot easier for me to change it up if they want to down the line. So my spacing on this, usually if I'm doing like a full head like this starting from scratch, and by scratch I mean all dark, no highlights or anything, and the spacing between my foils usually will be about like 1/4 of an inch apart, and right around the hairline like I'm doing right now, I will keep them even closer. Sometimes I won't even leave negative space. A lot of the inspo pictures that this client specifically showed me had a lighter money piece area, yet she wanted something more dimensional. And because she has quite a bit of a beautiful gray pattern, and it's not like too salt, like it is salt and pepper, but she does have a good amount of white hair blended in, I did want to make sure that the foils weren't spaced out too far apart to where it didn't blend well with her roots. But also I wanted to keep a good amount of dimension. So even though I'm going about probably like 1/4 of an inch apart, because she has so much hair, she's gonna have that nice dimension anyways, because she has thick hair and it's really packed in. And even though I'm putting a ton of foils in her hair, it's not gonna look like a solid blonde at all because of the amount of hair that she has. Now, if she had originally showed me a picture where she wanted to be like almost all platinum and not even dimensional, I would have to pack these foils in even closer together because of the amount of hair she has and the density. I would say a normal amount of hair, the spacing like 1/4 inch would be good enough to where it looks pretty solid. But on her, because she has so much hair, it's gonna look more dimensional in the end, and that's just based off of her hair texture and density. And so I kind of go based off of their hair goals, like what picture they show me, how much dimension it has, and then also according to their hair density, it all kind of affects how far apart I'll space out these slices. So now I'm going in, and this part is really important and kind of just ties the whole look together, is because she has roots that are a lot lighter, and if I don't do any of these tip outs, which is painting, like this is kind of like hand painting on the ends, then it doesn't look cohesive and natural like where the ends look lighter. So this part is really crucial to this whole process, and the way that I'll do this is I will pre-section the hairs that are in between the foils that I did not highlight to the root. And then I'll go in and pick out pieces that I want to tease and weave and paint and saturate those ends really well. And although this part can be kind of tedious and just take that extra bit of time, I feel like it's 100% worth it because it changes the entire look and placement of the color. Like if I weren't doing this part in her hair, and this part I call the tip outs because I'm only painting like the ends of her hair to like the mid. I'm not touching the root at all, and this is just gonna kind of help create that look to where her ends are a little bit lighter. So you can see I'm painting, saturating on the ends very well, and then just kind of painting up ever so like softly to kind of blend that line. I'm over directing towards the front of her face because I want to soften. So any type of over direction when you're hand painting like this is going to soften any line, because if you were to paint right where the hair lives at natural fall, then you'll see the lines that you're really painting in. So to ensure you get a really soft blend, I like to tease it, and I'll do a tease from the bottom normally because I just feel like it gives the most softness. And then I will do like a random weave. It could be like a baby light or a chunky weave, whatever you want, honestly. I just feel like weaving just softens and blends it all together even more. But just making sure that the sections for the tip outs too are pretty thin and see-through to make sure that you get a really clean saturation. And the more see-through it is, the faster it will technically lift. So because I do the tip outs last, I want to make sure that the tip out sections are a little bit thinner in the foil than the rest of the foils in the head, just because I feel like it will help catch up with the rest of the foils as well. Okay, so now that her foils are ready, I let her lift to pretty much a level 10 in most areas. Some pieces are level 9, but generally, mostly her hair has reached to a nice level like 9 and 10, I would say. And also, as I'm pulling out the foils, you can kind of see in the mohawk section of her head, I put some cotton in between her foils. So the reason for the cotton is actually because she had so much hair. And sometimes clients run warm, like their body temperature, and that can make sometimes the foils slip. Or another reason why foils may slip is sometimes whatever is on the hair or the client's hair can have some sort of a reaction with the lightener and make the foil slip that way. It could be various reasons why foils could slip, but those are just a few. And so to prevent any bleeding for that, I always like to put in some cotton if I start to notice maybe the client's body temperature is a little bit warmer and making the foil slip in that aspect. But I will put those mostly around where the head starts to like curve, where you saw that most of the cotton was, so that it prevents any bleed marks or any transfer or anything like that. So now I'm going to be going in with her toner, and like I said earlier in the video, I love to do a nice shadow root. I feel like this always makes everything blend so pretty in the end, especially on dark hair too. I don't know if you guys ever have this problem, but like whenever I highlight dark hair, I always feel like wherever the highlights are, where the lightener ends, sometimes there can be a little bit of warmth. So I always just go into shadow root to kind of get that little bit of warmth wherever the lightener ends, wherever you kind of paint up in a highlight, just to prevent any like unwanted warmth at like the ends of your highlights, if that makes sense. So I always will shadow root unless a client specifically doesn't want me to, but typically like 90% of the time I will, just to kind of blend everything together. And I just like the way that it looks and the effect of it, and it just kind of gives me a peace of mind to know that if there are any warm spots that where the lightener kind of ends from that highlight, that it kind of just covers it a little bit and makes sure that it fades out not as warm. And then now I'm going to be going in with the lighter toner, and I've mixed up a rapid toner. I'm using a rapid toner that has some violet and silver in it. This is going to help give her that nice gray tone that she's looking for to help blend her natural gray hairs.
Yeah, thank you so much. You're so welcome.
Alrighty guys, so here is the final look. We were so happy with the way that this turned out. Honestly, when we were doing our consultation, I told her that she might have to wait a couple sessions before it got gray, but her hair lifted so well, and I feel like because of her hair texture, it was able to handle the lightening of it and getting that blonde to reach this level in tone, and she was absolutely obsessed. I love the way that the front just looks so much lighter and then it gradually gets dimensional towards the back. That is my absolutely favorite part, and honestly that really all goes to the spacing between my slices, and then also her hair density and how thick her hair was to kind of create that dimension in between the highlights. But you can see there, those are her roots with the highlights going through it to help blend, and when this toner fades out, it will get a little bit blonder. She can maintain the tone at home with some purple shampoo, but other than that, she's pretty much good to go, and I'm pretty confident that this color is going to fade out very pretty on her. Alrighty guys, that is it for this week's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in, and as always, I will talk to you guys next week.